What if I told you that UFOs had been a part of the human experience for thousands of years?
Now that is sensational.
And even though they seem like a new thing because they are a daily occurrence, now you've got Tic Tacs all over the place and other unidentified aerial phenomenons.
So far this year, there have been 38 reports of UFO sightings reported at the National UFO Reporting Center.
Well, guess what, Jimbo, Plato's Cave Johnson? Your perception is not necessarily reality. Like I said, for thousands of years, UFOs have been a thing, and there are events that you are probably not familiar with from long ago that we're gonna be covering in today's video. Bit of a history of UFOs, the most interesting rabbit hole on UFOs that you will see today, for sure. Maybe not today, but maybe like for the next hour.
This sounds absolutely insane, and I'm aware of how this sounds. But
in recent months, we've begun to cover a lot of different phenomena, conspiracies, government secrets, experiments, billionaire bunkers in Antarctica, all of the above. And this is because the world is full of mysteries, and mysteries get me hard.
You believe in this shit or what? You believe in aliens?
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here.
Just answer the fucking question. Do you like aliens?
Yeah, they're sick.
Let me make sure there's no boogers. I feel like there is. Nope, we're good. Sorry, back to the video. Now, it's important to remember that one of the most common explanations for the unknown flying devices we see, UFOs, UAPs, unidentified flying objects, or unidentified aerial phenomena, or unknown aerial phenomena, or ubu fufu omo. I don't know, dude. A lot of people think that when they see something strange in the sky or experience something unexplained, some kind of bizarre phenomenon, the first thought is often aliens and maybe an alien's advanced spacecraft, something along those lines. In the United States, there's a huge culture surrounding UFOs and the conspiracies linked to them, to the point where in 2019, people went to Area 51 in Nevada to storm the government compound to find the aliens. They don't know about Black Ops. They don't know about Born Secret. They don't know how the military-industrial complex leads to the greatest scrubbing and non-existence of existent files in the world, and how data stored is compartmentalized. There are compartments of the CIA that aren't even known to outside forces.
The nation
We got it.
is counting on you to discover the truth.
I'll call the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CIA.
It's the work of Satan. That's what we're talking about today. Just kidding. We're talking about UFOs, all right? Let's get on track. The point is, this fascination with UFOs and secrets and the mystery surrounding them is nothing new, guys. But how deep do these conspiracies go? When did the sightings of UFOs begin? Take a wild guess. This is how many episodes are in a show called Ancient Aliens. You've probably heard of it. You've probably seen George Tsoukalos, this guy, and his big head and hair and stuff. I love that guy. He speaks like 50,000 languages or some shit. Probably a slight exaggeration, but he seems smart.
the ancient astronaut theory suggests that at some point, even the beginning of mankind had teachers. That's all we're suggesting.
He looks smart. If he's not smart, then he's something else. Are all of these unknown sightings explainable, or do the mysteries surrounding these sightings suggest that technologically advanced beings are watching us from space? I know what I believe, and that's that. I believe there are aliens everywhere, and I'm one. Potentially even. Before we go any further, this video is brought to you by Sour.gg, the best YouTuber candy brand that exists, the best candy brand in the world. Just kidding.
It has a good fruity taste to it.
It is a candy brand, though, that I own with my girlfriend.
Whoa, that was close.
And we love it, and my family makes it, and we have a small operation in a small town, and everyone loves it, and it's awesome, and it's a really cool community thing that I had no idea I would accidentally build thanks to you guys. And every Friday, we launch a new flavor of Sour Boys at 3 Central Standard. This upcoming Friday, I believe, is a watermelon raspberry. I think it's actually a legacy flavor, so it's not a new one technically, but it's like, you know, it's new or whatever. And we also have a new gummy product. They're like fruit gummies, plant-based. They're a little bit sour. They taste incredible.
Overall, not bad. Not bad at all.
It's so fun. It's so awesome. I love it. There's nothing special about the candy other than that the flavors are good, the ingredients are high quality, and it is from us. It's just a small cool thing that we're doing. So anyways, enjoy this video and go to sour.gg if you guys are interested in some candy. And also, if you buy something, leave a little order note of a flavor that you'd like to see and we might choose it. We've also got merch, other stuff, memberships, the Gump Club. If you go to gump.club, you can see every single video with no censors, all right? And if you don't, you. And also members of the Gump Club, AKA Nonstop PsyOp, will have their names thanked at the very end of every single video. Video like this, of course. Aliens visit Rome. The ability to actually record events has profoundly impacted humanity. It has enabled the preservation of essentially everything. Trade records from ancient Mesopotamia, epic tales like Homer's Odyssey and the Iliad, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I have another video coming about that quite soon. This preservation has also allowed for people to document strange encounters.
What the fuck are you gonna do about it?
Including those involving UFOs. The Romans, for example, known for their meticulous record keeping, documented numerous stories of unidentified flying objects. Now, to be fair, Romans seemed they were meticulous and they documented stuff, but like the symbolism applied to everything back in the day makes it difficult to really take anything that they thought as at face value. Like they made aqueducts and stuff, and that's really impressive. And they, they have a pretty cool thing going and stuff. But take this, for example. One of the earliest examples of a UFO recorded by early people was recorded by Livy, a Roman historian who lived from 59 BC to 17 AD, who might have worn a tinfoil hat had they existed back then.
Titus Livius, better known as Livy, is a name mentioned often on this channel. He serves as one of the main sources for basically all that we know about the early Roman Republic. His magnum opus, Ab Urbi Condita, or From the Founding of the City, consisted of 142 books. It covered Roman history all the way from its legendary founding by Romulus to the reign of the first Roman emperor, Augustus.
Similar to that scene from Signs, where they're all wearing tinfoil hats. Hershey Kiss Head. Hershey Kiss Head. Unwrap the head, eat the chocolate. Livy, as a historian, would document and record events from even before his own birth, creating hard copies of stories before they could be forgotten. One of these recorded events occurred during the build-up to the Punic War, the Second Punic War, not to be confused with the First Punic War. This was around 216 to 217 BC, nearly 150 years before Livy's birth. His records tell of people seeing prodigies in the sky, which are warning signs from the gods indicating conflict and misfortune, which is quite ominous now, considering this is during the lead up to the Punic War, a massive war.
It's been estimated that 20% of Rome's male population, aged 18 to 50, died at Cannae.
Accompanying these prodigies, he noted the appearance of navium specium decalo ad fluslisli, or phantom ships gleaming in the sky. What? What the f? I wasn't expecting that. Stop it. Go lay down. That's crazy. The phantom ships gleaming in the sky also, that's like the whole interpretation of the ancient Romans. It was all done through the lens of their spiritualism and mythology and the way that they wrote things down using symbolism. So, I don't know. Makes sense. Kind of cool. Cool wordage, I guess. That was pretty slick. I mean, come on, dude. Gleaming phantom ships in the sky? If I said that, it would be something crazy up there. Perhaps those who witnessed this phantom event believe themselves to be envisioning the divine, maybe divine chariots. I'm not sure. They wrote about those a lot. Look at this, pretty cool. I love Roman stuff. I like Greek stuff more than Roman stuff, but it's kind of the same in a lot of different ways. However, me reading phantom ships in the sky suggests something more inexplicable, which sounds more and more like the phenomena that we potentially recognize in modern day, aka UFOs. Okay guys, UFOs. As crazy as that sighting sounds, it could be interpreted as a bunch of Romans witnessing something that could only really be described through their lens of spiritualism and mythology. It's very cut and dry what they believed in. We know pretty much everything. And they was some symbolic motherfuckers out there. And perhaps even the people who witnessed this event believe themselves to be envisioning divine chariots, something like that. Maybe they were just seeing shit. Maybe they were high as fuck. I have no idea what happened exactly.
God damn, I didn't have nothing to do with this shit. Look at that.
To me, the words phantom chariot in the sky, that suggests something inexplicable that, you know, resembles phantom ships in the sky, which sounds more and more like the phenomena that we recognize in our modern day, aka UAPs or UFOs. There's that one, and Livy's records also continued with more sightings. In 217 BC on the island of Capri off the coast of Naples, Livy described a sighting of what looked to be round shields known as parmas, not parmesan, you hungry bastard. I'm hungry too. These round shields, the parmas, were seen in the night sky. And actual real parmas were Roman shields typically made entirely of metal. They're like the circular round ones. We'll put a screenshot of one up there, guys. Hashtag parmas. So by that description, hashtag parmas, metallic discs in the sky, I mean, that sounds like UFOs to me. You know, it's sort of quite literally a shield. I mean, guys, have you ever played GTA 5? Of course you haven't, because you have a life. Mount Chiliad, UFOs. Now we go to 212 BC at either Reti in central Italy or the island of Crete. Livy recorded another alien sighting. They're alien sightings, not. He recorded another unexplained sighting, but the translation is unclear. But it describes a gray, huge stone flying sporadically in the sky. All right, guys. That's weird. So this sighting from Livy continued the theme of gray objects being spotted in the sky. Gray objects that aren't supposed to be in the sky. I've never seen a rock fly or a shield or anything, but I know about UFOs. So this is already 3 sightings in a 5-year period that share similarities to what we commonly hear about in sightings today, UFO sightings. On top of this, Livy wasn't the only prominent Roman to document such insane phenomena. Seneca the Younger, a Roman philosopher, one of my favorite philosophers of all time.
If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable.
Also, this fella recorded seeing some strange objects, along with recording some insanely based and red-pilled lines like this.
We suffer more in imagination than in reality.
He's got a lot of them. A lot of them you've definitely heard of and recognized. Look at all these. These are all him. Isn't that crazy?
How much progress shall I make, you ask? Just as much as you try to make.
In one of Seneca's account from 168 BC in the Eastern Mediterranean, Seneca described a ball in the form of fire that appeared as large as the moon. Okay, that's scary too. And over a decade later in 146 BC, he documented seeing another fireball in the sky. After the death of King Demetrius of Syria, a comet blazed out not inferior to the sun. At first, it was a fiery red disk emitting a light so bright that it dissipated the night. Then, little by little, its size dwindled and its brightness faded. At last, the light died completely. What? Imagine seeing something that would compel you to write that. And for some reason, I don't think these guys lied a lot. All right? For some reason, I don't think they lied a lot. I like the appeal to ancient wisdom. I think that the ancients had something, just kidding, I don't. They didn't know what germs were. So that's pretty big L. So we've got Livy done, Seneca the Younger. How about Pliny the Elder? A Roman philosopher and also army commander. He claimed to have seen things in the sky, strange things. In 76 BC, Pliny described seeing a spark fall from a star and grow as it descended until it appeared to be the size of the moon. It then ascended and transformed into a torch. Sounds like he was witnessing a Starlink launch. I took a video of one of those. It's on Twitter. You can find it if you look up Oompaville Starlink. I thought it was a really cool UFO that I was seeing, but actually it was just Starlink. And I was like, I thought I was maybe having my own like Bigfoot moment. Nope. Seems like I might just be a fool. This experience was recorded in Pliny the Elder's Encyclopedia Natural History, and it has puzzled historians and astronomers for centuries. To me, it just sounds like maybe a meteor or something like that. But adding to the already sort of confusing nature of these unexplained things, Pliny claimed that Marcus Junius Silanus and his entourage witnessed the event, and that's supported by some consuls in the Roman court. However, Silanus could not have seen that. He's the governor of the Roman province of Asia, which would be modern Turkey. Maybe Silanus saw something similar and believed it to be the same phenomenon, or maybe he was just buying into Pliny's account. Pliny's a pretty good guy. I would invest heavily in Pliny's accounts or whatever. These Roman guys seem like they may have been fools. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is spot on. Spot on, dude. Kill him! Either way, Pliny saw something he couldn't explain and deemed it important enough to record for posterity, which the Romans loved posterity. Also, Roman historian Cassius Dio documented another strange encounter in 196 AD, a couple hundred years after all of these. He described finding angel hair in the form of Augustus. A fine rain resembling silver descended from a clear sky. I did not see it falling, but noticed it after it had fallen. By means of it, I plated some bronze coins with the silver. They retained the same appearance for 3 days, but by the 4th day, all the substance rubbed on them had disappeared. Somebody was dripping mercury on this poor guy. To be clear, Dio's account would be an encounter of the second kind, which is when a UFO or alien leaves some kind of physical trace behind and it isn't just a sighting. You like my mew? I just hit the mew right there. What the fuck? Another bizarre encounter was recorded in an early hagiographical text in 150 AD, a Christian text. According to the text, Hermas the shepherd, the brother of Pope Pius I, saw a beast made of pottery about 100 feet tall. It was multicolored and emitted rays of fire. What the fuck? A kaiju? Oh, shit. It was also accompanied by a maiden clad in white, you know, kind of a sort of Revelation biblical narrative there, the whole pale horse. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know, dude. Pottery, though, that's pretty cool. Pottery full of incel rage, it sounds like at least. This all took place on the Via Campana, a road from Rome to Capua, with Hermas as the only witness. So, you know, I don't know how reliable Hermas is in his testimonies. He's no Jesus, let's be real, but so yeah, there's that. Also, this would be an encounter of the third kind, which would involve direct contact with an extraterrestrial being. If it was an extraterrestrial being, whether it's metallic discs, ghost ships in the sky, fireballs, ceramic beasts, the Romans seem to experience it all. And given the longevity of their empire, it's no surprise that they documented such phenomena. It's been a consistent mainstay in the human experience, it seems like. I mean, before Romans, who cares, really? When it comes down to it, there's some cool stuff out there, but like Rome kind of did, you know, they kind of made it, they invented fish sauce. That's cool. So the Romans had it, and people from around the world from then until now have documented UFOs. It's a trend, once again, that persists until today, guys. These sightings, by the way, also extended well into medieval Europe, which in my opinion is very interesting because the medieval people, they were real dumb as well. But they knew how to paint stuff instead of just carving stuff. So yeah, there's actually a UFO painted, but we'll get into it, all right? We'll get into it. The medieval things, it's really interesting. In the end of the Roman times, even though Rome would fall and burn for nearly a week, deserved. Just kidding. That's bad. These stories survive. You know, what if the Library of Alexandria wasn't burned by savages? What would be that in there? What would be what other stories would there be? We have like 5 or 6 UFO stories that survived. 10 of Rome's 14 districts were turned to ash. What did we lose? What kind of awesome conspiracies did we lose? Medieval times. So we began in the medieval age, the 16th century, a millennia after our Roman friends' encounters. If this story is to believe the Battle of Nuremberg UFO story, it is likely the most interesting UFO event ever recorded, if it's to be believed, of course, guys. Of course, we have to take all this with a grain of salt. I mean, we're skeptics. We're high IQ skeptics, aren't we? One aspect that is rarely discussed in our common UFO and alien sighting stories is the idea that these phenomena might behave violently towards one another. They might be fighting or having a bit of a spat. This may be exactly what happened back in the 16th century. On the early morning of April 14th, 1561, it appeared as though the sky itself was on the verge of tearing apart above Nuremberg, Germany. In 1561, Nuremberg was a free imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire, also known as the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation. This city witnessed perhaps one of the most bizarre celestial phenomena recorded up until the point in time by humans. What is now referred to by some as the Battle of Nuremberg was reported to be an aerial battle involving hundreds of aerial phenomena, unidentified of course, including spheres, cylinders, and other strangely shaped objects that seemingly fought in the sky above Nuremberg. Ah! Jesus! She's the Antichrist. By the way, this battle in Nuremberg is not to be confused with the 5-day battle between the United States and Nazi Germany in 1945, also called the Battle of Nuremberg. Not to be confused with that, okay, guys? The event we're discussing predates that by 400 years, and it is about aliens. Okay. The events of this medieval celestial battle were recorded and illustrated in a newsprint from the time. the news was often shared on what's called Twitter. Just kidding, they're called broadsheets, which were often carved into wood. They look like this. It's kind of cool. The illustration depicts many shapes, colors, and curiosities, including blue, red, and brown orbs, long crescent shapes filling the sky, a giant black arrow spear of some kind, cylinders filled with orbs and long, broken plank-like shapes, and holy is that dick butt? These guys had no idea what they were recording. This illustration precedes a description of the events, telling the story of what was seen in the sky on that day. Here is a translation of the broadsheet written and illustrated by Hans Glaser in its entirety, followed by a breakdown of some of the more interesting claims. In the morning of April 14th, 1561, at daybreak between 4 and 5 a.m., a dreadful apparition occurred on the sun, and then this was seen in Nuremberg in the city, before the gates and in the country by many men and women. At first, there appeared in the middle of the sun 2 blood-red semicircular arcs, just like the moon in its last quarter. And in the sun, above and below, on both sides, the color was blurred. There stood a round ball of partly dull, partly black ferrous color. Likewise, there stood on both sides, and as a torus about the sun, such blood-red ones and other balls in large number, about 3 in a line and 4 in a square. Also some alone. Holy get to the point! These all started to fight amongst themselves so that the globes, which were first in the sun, flew out to the ones standing on both sides. Thereafter, the globes standing outside the sun and the small and large rods flew into the sun. Besides, the globes flew back and forth among themselves and fought vehemently with each other for over an hour. And when the conflict in and again out of the sun was most intense, they became fatigued to such an extent that they all, as said above, fell from the sun down upon the earth as if they all burned. And they then wasted away on the earth with immense smoke. After all this, there was something like a black spear, very long and thick-sided. The shaft pointed to the east and the point pointed west. Whatever such signs mean, God alone knows. Although we have seen shortly one after another many kinds of signs on the heaven, which are sent to us by the Almighty God to bring us to repentance, we still are, unfortunately, so ungrateful that we despise such high signs and miracles of God. Or we speak of them with ridicule and discard them to the wind in order that God may send us a frightening punishment on account of our ungratefulness. After all, the God-fearing will by no means discard these signs, but will take them to heart as a warning from their merciful Father in heaven, will mend their lives and faithfully beg God that he may avert his wrath, including the well-deserved punishment on us, so that we may temporarily here and perpetually there live as his children for it. May God grant us his help. Amen. Holy! You might want to have a damn time note to skip that bitch. That was a lot of reading. That damn excerpt, if you can even call it that, was brought to you by Sour.gg and the Gump Club. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Or something like that, I forget. To basically summarize, because that probably will be skipped by a lot of people, between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. on April 14, 1561, likely hundreds of Nuremberg citizens began to see the blood-red arcs appear from the sun. Orbs began to appear in various colors and arrangements, some in lines, some in a square, all fighting. Okay, guys, between the groupings were blood-red crosses and strips, maybe lasers. That's how we can maybe interpret it. Cylinders appeared that carried more orbs within them. They had the battle for Earth right there above Nuremberg in the 1500s. This is insane. I mean, this is probably the most compelling, interesting sighting of any alien shit ever, I think. And they were all like, well, that's definitely God trying to tell us we need to repent. Holy. It seems like the rods or cylinders acted as carriers for other ships, functioning as force multipliers, all the way back in 1561, and apparently for over an hour, the shapes fought in the sky, flying all over the place at each other. They even apparently began plummeting to Earth with immense pillars of smoke. And in the illustration, you can see crashed ships in the bottom right with smoke billowing out of them. How crazy is that? Like, this is ancient. And then following this massive battle, there was that giant spear-shaped object that was facing west, whatever the fuck that is. Yeah, I'm not sure. Hans Glaser, the writer of the broadsheet, himself tried to rationalize what the city saw and interpreted it as a divine sign from God and a criticism of people for not believing or condemning these signs. I'm not really sure. He urged the God-fearing people of Nuremberg to take these signs to heart as warnings and to mend their lives to avoid divine punishment. God style. Pretty cool. Whatever such signs mean, God alone knows. We still are unfortunately so ungrateful that we despise such high signs and miracles from God. The God-fearing will by no means discard these signs, but will take them to heart as warnings from their merciful Father in heaven. Will mend their lives and thank God he may avert his wrath. Oh! Imagine that being the wrath of God. Just ships blasting and shit everywhere. He just comes riding in. He's got a big long beard and he's just like, oh, yo. Just kidding. That's blasphemous. Really weird. Overall, a very strange thing to witness draw. I mean, it looks like a child drew it, but it's still got a little bit of, still looks kind of cool, you know? Looks pretty cool. Like, what's that? What is all this stuff? Imagine just being a peasant, a medieval peasant, and then that starts happening. You're just like, oh, my life's already pretty bad. My wife, she just got her hand chopped off for stealing one of the king's carrots. Ah, crap. Now there's this. Hellfire raining down upon ye? Oh, shucks. So what do y'all think? You think it's a phenomenon that's alien in nature? Was it potentially a divine sign from God? Some people have offered explanations to attempt and debunk the battle over Nuremberg. One of the most compelling explanations comes from an archived page of the now defunct Ancient Aliens Debunked website, which is unfortunate. I like Ancient Aliens and their misinformation. I really enjoy that show a lot. The first explanation given is what's called a sundog, which is an atmospherical optical phenomenon where bright spots appear on the sides of the sun, which partially creates a halo, and some of the shapes do appear similarly placed in size to what can be seen in the examples of sundogs. And in some images of the sundogs, you can see orbs of different colors. The orbs are red or blue. They look like the illustrations and the recollection of the Battle of Nuremberg. Kind of, a little bit, I guess. And also, the pictures of sundogs show only one orb, which is a stark contrast from the vomit of this, whatever the this is. You know, what happened back in 1561 out there just outside Nuremberg. The website described the pillars of smoke as fall streaks, which look almost like spirals of cloud coming down, giving the illusion of something falling from the sky. And these are made up of ice crystals, which are commonly seen with cirrus clouds, which are also ingredients for sundogs. So it's like these things can happen all at once, according to this one incel that's debunking my favorite television show of all time. So, and then this feller explains the large black spear in the sky pointed west as a crepuscular ray, aka a god ray, or a shadow caused by the fall streak. Which, you know, this does make a lot of sense, in all honesty, but nah, not to me though. So yeah, some of the examples given are fairly compelling for debunking the incident, but it's still a stretch to confuse a shadow for a massive alien craft. I mean, how dumb were these people actually? How dumb do we think these people are? What about the cylinders though, guys? The multiple crosses and the X's in the sky, or the long plank-like objects in Hans Glaser's broadsheet depiction. Plus, there were supposedly hundreds of spheres flying around, but sundogs typically show nowhere near that number, usually just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, or just 1, actually. So were they actually aliens in 1561? I have no idea. I think it'd be really cool to think that there was a massive science fiction space battle between aliens in 1561, just 50 years before the King James version of the Bible was written. People were simple, you know? People were simple. That would have been really funny to just have aliens be like, all right, we can show them. We can kind of show this off. Let's fight. Let's fight over these guys. Let's blast. Let's blast each other. Let's use our laser guns. Imagine the mental trauma that imparted on some poor peasants. Anyways, yeah, we really don't know though. All right, guys, was it a science fiction battle in the 1500s or was it just clickbait? You could draw something like this and over-exaggerate to sell more copies of broadsheets because they're essentially just newspapers of the time, and I doubt there was a lot of journalistic integrity back then. So this guy probably was like, I'm gonna make some shit up. He was like the L. Ron Hubbard of journalists in medieval Germany. It's not that funny. It wasn't really going anywhere. I'm sorry. Perhaps more fascinating than the battle for Nuremberg is the alleged contact of an alien race living within the Earth just after World War II. And the decision of that race to make contact with military powers and the reasoning why. And it's a crazy, crazy mystery, and that is the mystery of Operation High Jump. Operation High Jump, the alien mystery. Wow. On August 26, 1946, 3 days before I was born, a mission codenamed Operation High Jump was established by the United States Navy. The official purpose was to train personnel in cold temperatures, study geology, and establish a possible airbase in the Antarctic. Similar to that other video we made. Remember that Antarctic video we made? However, the true objective was far more secretive and intriguing. Leading the mission was Richard E. Byrd, a highly decorated naval officer who served in both World Wars and received numerous prestigious awards, including the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, and a Congressional Gold Medal. That is ridiculous, by the way. You don't just hand those things out. Any of those. All of those are crazy, especially after a world war. That's wild. Mr. Byrd wasn't just an intrepid explorer and extremely well-decorated military genius. He was also a brave and trustworthy seaman assigned an important task by the United States government. Task Force 68 was comprised of 4,700 men, 70 ships, and 33 aircraft. They were to set up camp at Little America, marking the establishment of the U.S. Navy's Operation High Jump from 1946 to 1947. So at its face value, this massive mission with its impressive force seemed like total overkill for just a simple training exercise. It's because the true mission was to establish a base to explore uncharted territory for the United States of America to claim and to search for any remnants of Nazi technology or bases, because the big rumor was the Nazis had couple houses in the Hamptons. And I'm not talking about the Hamptons that are in the Northeast. I'm talking about the Hamptons in Antarctica. Different Hamptons, less popular. And as Byrd embarked on his exploration with his task force, things took an unexpected and very bizarre turn. During his flyover, he went radio silent and did not check in during his flight, which was highly unusual given his strict adherence to check-ins and flight schedules. By the way, this is more information on his flyover. In spite of not checking in, Mr. Byrd kept detailed logs in his personal journal revealing an astonishing discovery. At 0910 hours, both magnetic and gyro compasses began to gyrate and wobble, rendering them completely useless. Byrd and his crew had to rely on a sun compass to maintain their heading. The controls felt sluggish, but there was no indication of icing. At 0915, Byrd spotted what appeared to be mountains in the distance. At 0949, after 29 minutes, the mountains came into clearer view and revealed a small range Byrd had never seen before. At 0955, Byrd's team encountered strong turbulence and Byrd's plane crossed over the mountain range, which revealed a valley with a small river or stream. The sight of this is incredibly unusual, as they had been flying over ice and snow and tundra, permafrost, yet somehow below them now they were observing lush green forests growing on mountain slopes. At 10:05, Byrd descended to 1,400 feet to better examine this valley. The area was green with moss or grass, whatever it may have been, and the light seemed different. He couldn't see the sun anymore, and they spotted what appeared to be a large animal below, resembling a mammoth. The sighting to them was obviously incredible, as it confirmed the presence of a prehistoric creature in a previously not well explored area of the world. At 10:30, they encountered more rolling green hills, and the external temperature indicator read 74 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a stark contrast to the typical Arctic temperatures of 14 to -76. Big difference, guys. Big difference there. Huge difference, actually. Like a lot of difference. Navigation instruments normalized, but the radio remained non-functional. At 11:30, Byrd spotted what seemed to be a city ahead. His aircraft felt light and buoyant, and the controls refused to respond. Then suddenly, disc-shaped aircraft with radiant quality closed in rapidly. I don't know what radiant quality means, but these aircraft bore markings resembling a swastika, which created a surreal and alarming scenario for Byrd and his team. Subsequently, Byrd's aircraft seemed to be caught in an invisible vice grip, like a tractor beam from Austin Powers. He recorded the events in his log.
My God! Off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It's a type of swastika!
This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again, but they will not respond. Suddenly, Bird heard a voice on the radio speaking English with a slight German accent, welcoming him and stating that they would land him in 7 minutes. The controls became obsolete as the strange machines guided his aircraft. Bird described the experience as being in an unseen elevator descending into a mysterious domain. At 11:45, Bird made his final log entry before being approached by tall, blonde, extremely handsome men that guided him through a shimmering city pulsating with rainbow hues. Sounds kind of gay. I want to see this city. That's awesome. The June City. According to Bird, the city seemed to be made of crystal, and he was eventually brought before a man with delicate features seated at a long table. The man, whom Bird referred to as the Master, welcomed him and revealed that Bird was in the presence of the Ariani aliens from the inner Earth. The Master explained that they had revealed themselves to Bird because of his noble character and his status on the surface world. The Ariani warned Bird about humanity's dangerous path to nuclear weapons, emphasizing the need for intervention to prevent planetary destruction, which we've talked about that before as well. The Master continued explaining that since 1945, the race had been met with hostility and their Flugelrads had been fired upon by fighter planes. Whatever the any of that means. Flugelrads? What is this? Whoville? Bird was told by the Master that if humanity continued on its destructive path, that the Ariani would reveal themselves to restore balance, and Bird was then escorted back to his aircraft, which had been prepared for his departure. He was taken to high altitude almost immediately, escorted once again by the saucer-like craft, and then he departed. The pilots of the craft bid him farewell, saying, "We are leaving you now, Admiral. Your controls are free. Auf Wiedersehen!" What the They're German. I just picked up on that. Just kidding. I didn't. They were blonde, and they had Nazi stuff. And it's also after World War II. At 2200, Bird reestablished communications with base camp and eventually returned. He shared his findings with his crew, but the mission was abruptly ended much earlier than planned, and Bird's accounts were examined, and he was summoned to the Pentagon. Upon returning, Bird was placed under strict control via national security provisions and ordered to remain silent about everything he learned. Conveniently, of course, but somehow I'm talking about it on YouTube. Like 100 years later. Despite being a military man who followed orders, Bird struggled with the secrecy imposed on him, obviously because that shit's crazy. His final journal entry expressed his frustration with keeping such a monumental discovery hidden, and he hoped that the truth would eventually come to light, ending with, "Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that center of the great unknown." Admiral Bird was a decorated and credible officer chosen for an incredibly important mission, and his accounts, if true, suggest extraordinary encounters and discoveries that the public may never fully understand, or maybe they're all just not real. Okay, guys. Unfortunately, the last living member of the Operation High Jump mission passed away in 2023, and that similarly is the case for many of the great men who lived and fought in World War II. So the secrets of that mission will forever remain buried with those men, and all that remains are Admiral Bird's journal. Was this a hallucination? Was it a fabricated story? If it was, why? Who the cares? Is it real? If it is, that's incredibly concerning and strange, because like all the Nazi stuff, you know, like if the Nazis are, it's very strange. And there's also that Hyperborea conspiracy and all this stuff, and apparently that's where white people live. Apparently white people live in the middle of the earth, and the only way you can get there is through the poles. I don't know. Apparently, there are a lot of idiots out there, but, you know, God, allegedly or whatever, I'm not sure. Questions about the encounters. One of the aspects of these sightings that I find very curious or bizarre is the way each person's human experience informs how these encounters are rationalized by their respective author or the person that's writing them down, the person that is experiencing them. However, how is it being internalized and then externalized and communicated? In ancient Rome, a culture that derived a lot of its religious iconography and mythos from Greek mythology and those gods in a time, people believed that they were flying through the sky in chariots made of gold, and they believed that. That's actually what like people sort of had the expectation of seeing if they saw something godly. The way that they may interpret phenomena that we see like this through a FLIR, it's a tic-tac, they see a light shimmering off something and they're like, oh, wow, that's, you know, that's like the chariot the God chariot flying through this, that's probably what that is. Or that the phenomena are just shields flying around, or perhaps they're just a different form of chariot that these people already believe in. Maybe they're events or messages, warnings, like an omen of a coming conflict, like the Second Punic War. Take, for example, what happened centuries later in Nuremberg, Germany. We've got a similarly inexplicable event, what seemed to be a chaotic aerial battle between spheres, crescents, and crosses, as interpreted by Hans Glaser. He thought those were signs from God. Whatever the fuck actually happened that day was heavily interpreted and rationalized through the worldview of Hans. And he thought it was a godly thing. Christian gods. Then we have Admiral Byrd jotting down notes in his journal from Operation High Jump, and that's from a time where it's in the backdrop of a global war where each side is hoping to eclipse the other in power and military might. And what he sees are advanced beings aligned with his country's enemies. It seems, at least. There's, Nazi shit. It's all very fascinating. And by the way, that's after Hitler died. So all I know is that I want to see some of that shit. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, press the like button. Thank you to all the Gump Club members. Check out these motherfuckers. Go join the Gump Club today. Watch uncensored videos of all these. There's a little extra content, little goofy shit we throw in there. I cut out a lot of really stupid stuff. And thank you to Sour Boys for sponsoring this video. Go to sour.gg, buy some candy, and I'll see you all in the next video.